Rubin, it's good seeing you.
Good to see you,
This
John.
is episode 1 of our,
Yes.
hopefully many episodes of our video podcast here.
Yes. I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm glad. You have to be here. Rubin, I've known you for a long time.
Mhm.
I've had the privilege of being Julius's, which is your son, and Julianne's, your daughter.
Yeah.
I had the privilege of being their elementary pastor.
Wow. That's such a...
Julius is 18 now?
He just turned 18 2 days ago.
I didn't know when he was in
September
kindergarten.
28th. Yeah.
He's a kindergartner.
He's adult now. He could actually leave the home.
I think Julianne was like maybe 2nd or 3rd grade. I don't quite remember.
Julianne now she'll be 20 in November.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
20.
That's
Unbelievable.
Right. That's right.
And she loves ballet. I see all the ballet pics.
She loves ballet. She loves swimming, dancing. Yeah, she loves working. Yeah, she's a hardworking girl.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's been like almost like 15, 16, well, actually like 15, 14 years since Julius was a kindergartner.
I know.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
They grow so fast.
Yeah.
I get so sad when my kids are growing up. I miss them. I miss them as
I know you miss that stage, and then they grow up, and then they're different.
I hope that they don't. Everyone always tells me like when they grow up, like they're not gonna want to spend time with you. I hope that never happens to me.
It will happen. It will happen. You know, they will spend time with you, but not as much. Yeah, you just have to be happy with what you get.
Right. No, I guess I have to be happy with what I get.
Yeah.
Rubin, let's see. You've been in pastoral ministry,
Mm-hmm.
and then you were a full-time missionary in Philippines.
Yes.
In Davao. Is it Davao or Davao?
They pronounce it Davao.
Okay, Davao.
Yeah, accent in Davao.
Which is an island off the Philippines.
Well, the island is called Mindanao.
Okay.
And then Davao is a city
Okay.
in the island. Yeah.
And so you were a missionary, came back to the United States.
Mhm.
You're pastor again. You're EM pastor right now.
I
but
am.
your full-time gig is here
Yes,
at the
that's right.
seminary.
Yes.
And you're the dean of graduate programming.
Yes.
Talk to me about just that transition. You're a pastor and missionary. You kind of did the whole thing, even academics now.
You know, I wanted to be missionary for a long time, and that's my passion. That's why I went to school, and I really didn't want to, like per se, start the pastoral ministry. But the church I was going to, even before I was pastor, Good Souls Church, the pastor Timothy Song, he said, "Hey, you know, when the junior high pastor left, hey, Reuben, why don't you be a pastor?" And I don't really want to be a pastor. I'm kind of old. I don't know how to relate to junior high.
How old were you when you were at the junior high? How old were you?
Maybe like 33, 34.
Oh,
Okay. And then he said, "Hey, Reuben, you want to be a missionary, right? Yeah. If you learn how to relate to junior hires, you could learn to relate to anyone in the world." And then that kind of gave me a challenge. So I was junior high pastor for 4 years. And then after that, after all my prep is done, I went to Philippines for 7 years and came back.
What was the main ministry you were doing in the Philippines? Were you a pastor there? Were you preaching every Sunday?
No, I wasn't preaching every Sunday. I would preach every now and then if they invite me. But the main ministry was church planting. Not church planting by myself or the team, but we're helping the local Filipino church and denomination to church plant. Yeah, so we would...
so you're training pastors.
Yeah, we're training
church
pastors.
plant.
Yeah,
That's
at
great.
that. And even before that, we would figure out where the churches are not. Because you don't want a church plant where there's like 10 churches already, right?
Yeah, like here in California.
Yeah.
Church on the block.
So in the Philippines, you know, you cannot drive like 30 or 40 minutes to go to church like here. You know, public transportation, they don't have cars. So most of the time they walk to church. So if they don't have church near them, they cannot go to church physically.
Yeah.
It's important for even a small church to be planted in every village. So you find a village where there's no church and we plant them.
Okay, when you say village, are you talking like a real village, or are you just using a synonym for a city?
No, real village, and even in a city, they call it barangay, which is like a small, like zip code section.
Yeah.
And if they don't have a church, you will plant them.
So like a village, like there's no mayor there or anything like that. Is there like a chief, like a head leader?
Yeah. They call it barangay kapitan,
Okay.
which is like a village chief or something.
And they're like in charge of the village.
Yes.
Does that person report to the government at all?
Yeah. They're elected official.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like, you know.
A real government official.
Yeah, it's like a small city mayor, but the city or village could be like 50 household, 100 household, yeah, or it could be like 1,000 household, depending on village.
And they make up their own laws and rules in their village?
Well, I mean, they could make up their local rules, but they have to follow the national or state rules.
Federally for sure, that I understand.
Yeah.
But then, like, again, in their village, though, as long as it complies, they can make up their own rules.
Yes. And Philippines, they have Christian villages, animist villages, even Muslim villages, and they would have different local laws depending on their background, their religion, and things like that.
Wow, what a different cultural experience.
Yeah, it was quite fun, actually.
We have something really exciting to talk about.
Yes,
This is why we're doing this in the first place.
Yes.
The seminary here that you're the Dean of Graduate Programming, Presbyterian Theological Seminary of America, has a Korean-speaking M.Div track, a Master's Divinity track, all Korean-speaking.
Yes.
But for some reason, that you're going to explain, you guys decided, hey, we got to start an English-speaking M.Div track. Why would you want to do that? Why is that necessary? If you already have a Korean-speaking one, why did all of a sudden the seminary think we got to do something for the English speakers?
Yeah, I mean, if you first hear that, you might think, oh, the seminary wants to expand to EM side and things like that. But the vision is much more grand than that. The vision is to for the Korean Immigrant Church. We had this issue of KMEM conflict for such a long time. And I think one of the main reasons is that the background, the historical and cultural background of the KM pastors and pastors are so different. And one of the main differences is that they go to different schools. Majority, or 100% I would say, of the Korean first generation pastors goes to Korean seminary, either in Korea or here. And the second generation EM pastors all go to American seminaries. So they study at a different context. They study a different culture. So if we bring them together at a same seminary and have them go through 3 or 4 or 5 year process of Master of Divinity program, interacting, learning from each other, understanding each other, I think there will be a great foundation, a stepping stone. And from that, when they go out to ministry, it will be better for them to work together as a KMEM context, Korean Immigrant Church.
Now, I don't really know a lot of the Korean-speaking seminaries around here in California, but I remember you telling me that this one is kind of more of a well-known one with the Presbyterian churches.
Yes.
For Korean-speaking pastors.
Yes. So Korean-speaking pastors, not even Presbyterian, we have different denominations, pastor to become, and this school, PTSA, we call it, is, I would say, the best seminary in US. In Canada.
So okay, because I did not go to a Korean-speaking seminary. I went to Talbot, and you also went to Talbot.
Yes.
So I know like Talbot, and there's Masters, there's Westminster, there's Fuller, right? What are the other like Korean-speaking seminaries around here? I don't even know. Where do they go?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. We are the main, flagship seminary of the Presbyterian, and there's a university called WMU, which is World Mission University, which is set up by OMC, their denomination, long time ago. And then there is
Is that seminary accredited though?
Yes, it is. It is. I'm only talking about accredited.
Okay.
And there's a lot of small seminaries that are not accredited.
Right.
I'm not even talking about
ones.
I'm not even talking about.
Because I know about that OMC seminary.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know they were accredited.
Yeah. And then there's GMU, Grace Mission University, which is offshoot of the Grace Korean Church, which is in Fullerton, which is more charismatic. Yeah. So those are kind of main seminaries. But out of I was out of those 3, I think it's consensus that we are the best quality.
This is the best one.
Yes, I would say.
You got to say that, right? You got to say that. Now, when you first approached me, we talked about this months ago. We had lunch.
Yes.
And when you first told me about this idea, I was so fascinated. I was fascinated, number one, because there's never been anything like this. As to my knowledge, like I don't know. Country, the whole world,
this
right?
is the first time.
First time I ever heard about a seminary and the goal is to bring the Kenyan pastor to the seminary doing the Korean-speaking track, but the English-speaking pastor from the same church also to the same seminary doing the English-speaking track.
Yes.
So that we can help build that relationship between these two different cultures, dynamics, and of course, like you said, learning similar things. Because again, going to different seminary, doctrine might be the same, but again, the style and everything is a little bit different. So you're like got to come back together in the church and kind of figure out how to match your education together again. That was so fascinating, so blown away. I got so excited, and that's why I really wanted to be a part of this. Tell me about the KM. Maybe it's not just the seminary alone, but other KM pastors. Do they really want this? Do they think like this is a good idea?
Yeah, I would think so. I think more so for the KM pastors, they really want to. There's misunderstanding between KM and EM pastors because of the language issue and cultural issue. But KM pastors really want to work together well with EM pastors, and it's in their heart. Even though it might not show in a more manageable way, but it's in their heart. And so I was talking to a lot of Korean KM first pastors, and they're really excited about this program, bringing the KM future pastors and EM pastors together. So not only study together, but they could also do their life together. They could do student life and interact and do socially. They could go out for dinner, lunch, and have activities together at church, at school. So that not only study the holistic student life would bring them together, and it would take down the barrier of language and culture, so they could go out and do the ministry in a more, I guess, amicable way when they go out to.
When you said to eat lunch together, I bet so many of our viewers right now are thinking like, what? I would never eat lunch with my KM Moksanim, like ever. But you know this because we used to be at the same church together. I was the elementary pastor on the KM side, and then you were one of the associate pastors for the EM side with Pastor Jimmy. But every Friday, all the KM pastors and the education pastors, and then all the pastors from the EM, we went out to lunch together.
Yes.
And I remember when I first got there and we did that, I was like, dude, what's going on? This is so weird. Like, I'm eating with KM pastors? It's so weird. Just such a small example of how, like, of a culture shock I went into. It was like, I'm eating lunch with KM. Because normally, KM and EM don't interact socially ever. We never interact. And so sharing life together and eating lunch together, to me, the kind of big main idea there is relationship. To have a relationship between KM and EM pastoral staff.
I mean, that's totally correct. Relationship is really a big thing. And through relationship, you gain understanding. And relationship has to be intentional. When I was pursuing my wife, I was really intentional. I'm sure you were, right? So
my wife, she pursued me.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm just kidding.
Man, I don't know what to say, man. But I guess that in that context, the campus was intentional. Whoever was in charge was intentional in having lunch together. And that intentionality caused KM and EM pastors to come together and have fun. And
that were so fun. The lunches were so fun.
And that made working together in a ministry context much more amicable and easy and happy, right? And effective. And that's what we want in our school. When KM future pastors and EM future pastors come, people could come to the same school and not even talk to each other. And just like EM members and KM members come to the same church, but don't know their names and not, But we don't want that. We want to be intentional in their studies together and in their student life together. And when they do that, they'll have better understanding of others' culture and therefore have a better ministry together when they graduate.
I remember just my experience coming into GSC from the church I used to be at, and it was night and day, my experience. It could not be more different relationally, how we did ministry, how KM and EM worked well together, my relationship with the head Moksani, the senior pastor. It was night and day. And I just remember while I was at GSC, I used to tell all my friends who who were in KMEM models about my experience, or just sometimes it would just come up like, yeah, I was talking to my Moksa name. And I remember all my friends would always say like, your church is really like that? Your church like goes out to, your church does it. You could talk to, you could walk into your, I remember they would always ask me like, really? Wow, I can't believe you go to a church like that. Until this day, I still talk about, because Jewish church, I still talk about Song Byung-ju Moksa님. I say like, you guys don't understand, like, you should go like study their church as a case study. You should talk to the Moksanim there. There's so much to learn. And you know, Ruben, you're kind of like a 1.5, right?
Yes.
Something like you were born in Korea, but you immigrated over at not like a super young age, but at an age where you kept your Korean with you. And you kind of grew up in Korea. What grade were you when you came?
So I came when I was 12, sixth grade.
Right, so that's not like super young. So it's almost like middle school, junior high area. So you're a 1.5. So you have this awesome understanding of American culture and Korean culture. In your experience, what do you think were some struggles and challenges with KM or even with EM? Because you've been there in that model. What have been your personal challenges in your experience?
I mean, my disposition is more of EM, I think, from my opinion. So some of the things that KM pastors did was kind of like leadership issues, some of the cultural issues. I was sometimes, why would they do that? So example, I was doing junior high or whatever other ministry, and sometimes it didn't happen a lot, but they would already make a decision for you, and they wouldn't even consult you. So that was kind of rude, I thought. And so many of those issues. So it was those little things kind of added up, and then if you don't talk to them and if you don't resolve it, then it could be a big hindrance to your ministry.
So you thought that even though you are a 1.5er, like you understand Korean culture, but you still felt that struggle. Like, why would they do that?
Yeah.
Do you think that when we talk about the dynamics between KM and EM, two cultures, and so for some of our viewers, they don't understand, like, aren't you guys all Korean? How are the two cultures? The difference is Koreans born in America, raised in America, in the American education system, even going to an American English seminary versus Koreans raised in Korea, raised in much more dominantly Korean culture, going to Korean seminary, and then coming to America, right? So there is these two cultures, different values. Do you think it's more on the KM or it's more on the EM to try to figure this out?
I think both. Yeah, both. Definitely both. And I heard from KM side complaints that because of the cultural disposition of KEM, associate pastor and KM associate pastors, I heard a lot of resentment from KM associate pastors because for KM associate pastors, the KM lead pastor forced them to come to 새벽 기도, early morning prayer, right? And then
morning prayer.
Even like I even heard that okay, KM associate pastor, you gotta wear the suit. EM, they're okay,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then KM associate pastor, you have to take a turn in cleaning the church. EM pastors, they're okay. They're different. So from the perspective of KM associate pastor, why are we treated this way? What's so special about them, right? Yeah. And then so there's the different expectations, and EM pastors, they have to understand where they're coming from. So I think it's on both sides. Yeah.
I think about some of the more common barriers and obstacles between KM and EM. One is language.
Yes.
Like even me, my Korean is terrible, so it's very hard to communicate. Values. I think Koreans born in America, again, raised in American education system, raised with American socializing and recreation and leisure activities. Values are different.
Yes, definitely.
Even family dynamics are different.
Yes.
Even though my parents are Korean, they're like first generation Koreans. Everyone's family dynamics are a little bit different because my parents had to raise me in America, which is different from the KM side, which is they were raised in Korea.
Yeah.
So the family values and dynamics are a little bit different. Are there anything else that you think are more of the common obstacles between why it's so hard to work together?
I mean, if you look at it, it's the same issue with different cultures. You know, like I said, I was in the Philippines for 7 years, and even though it will manifest in a different way, the core issue is the same: different expectations and different cultural values. And when I went to missions, I was expecting that. Oh, I was expecting a difference. I was expecting there would be conflict. So I was more open to those conflicts. I was more open to learning, and you know, there's a language difference. So I was open to learn the language, and there's a cultural difference. So I was open to learn the culture. And if you don't, you cannot survive as a missionary. That's the basic, you know, missionary 101, learn the language and learn the culture. So if you have the mission mindedness and bring it to a local context, a Korean church, two distinct values and cultures exist in a single church, and that's a mission field. And each pastor has to be mission minded. They have to be missionary first. Oh yeah, they're different. I have to learn more about them. I have to learn their language. I have to learn their value. I have to learn to understand them. And if you have that attitude, mission-minded attitude, I think it will be a lot easier. And that attitude and that concept and that background that we're trying to install in our seminary as we try to start this project, we want to teach them about mission-mindedness.
One of the goals that we've been talking about in this English-speaking program, it's like one of our values.
Yes.
Be a missionary first. We're going to train them to be a missionary first,
yeah.
And then a pastor second. And this goes beyond just Kim, Niem. This is really for any church, actually. Because a lot of churches, like even my church, there's a bunch of different cultures there. And even in my church context, we assume that the answer is American culture. But that's the wrong answer.
No.
We can't just assume, because then you assume American values, again, American family dynamics, right? And when you have different cultures, now you're just forcing them to be American culture, which is, again, not a very good way, in my opinion, to do ministry. So here, one of our values is going to be teach them to be a missionary first, what you just said. Learn their language, learn their culture, learn their values, and then a pastor second. Now, for a lot of people listening, they're going to think, that's weird, because this is a seminary. I'm not a missionary. I'm trained to be a pastor first, to shepherd.
Yeah.
So explain that a little bit.
Yeah, you know, Jesus says, you know, be a missionary in his, you know, Great Commission, right? Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and end of the earth. So if we look at that in that context, we have to really understand that everything that we do is mission, right? And you know, there's a popular phrase, mission-minded church. It's not only, you know, you support the missionaries in different countries, but your church there's different cultures, especially in Korean American context, Korean culture and English American culture. And if you're not a missionary minded and pastor minded, you would look at the KM pastor, EM pastor. Oh, they're different. He's wrong. I'm right. But if you're missionary minded, oh, it's different. It's okay. I'm going to try to understand that and where they come from. And we'll work together. That's missionary minded. And if you have the mind, you will succeed as a missionary. But if you don't have a missionary mind and go to a mission field, even though you're a pastor, you will not succeed. So that's where we want to teach our students a mission mindedness and how Christ views each culture and try to come together in a context where we could work together.
I remember talking to Pastor Ben Shin a long time ago. This was maybe like 10 years ago. And I remember him saying something to me where, you know, America is probably the only country, I think maybe Canada probably deals with it too, because, you know, they have a lot of cultures there. But he said, you know, America is probably the only country that has to deal with this problem of like a bunch of different cultures in your church.
Yeah.
Like in most countries, it's just one culture.
Yes. Yeah, that's
sure,
correct.
There might be some international people in business, but not like us in America. It's like, I think in LA, there's over 130 cultures and ethnicities.
Okay.
And Pastor Ben was telling me, like, in our church, we're the only ones that have to deal with a bunch of different cultures.
Yeah.
Usually in other countries, it's just like one culture.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to minister to one culture.
I know. I mean, we talk about Korean KM in context, but I'm sure same thing goes for Chinese churches, Hispanic churches, or whatever the immigrant churches. Yeah. Same problem and same solution, I think.
Chinese church actually is very interesting because they're way further along than us in generations. I think they're like in 5th, 6th generation, something like that. But what we're seeing in one example, it's a Chinese church in Walnut. The EM pastor right now is being trained to be the head pastor over the whole church.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So that the Chinese-speaking senior pastor right now is training him to be the head pastor over the whole church.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is, I don't think there's a Korean church out there that's like that, but they're way further along than us.
Yeah. I think I don't quite recall the name, but I think there's one church in Berea that's kind of like that. I think that's a trend. That will be the trend in the beginning because.
Oh yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, because EM will grow.
Yes.
KM, the immigration from Korea, is dwindling.
It's already
slowing down. So right now, typically KM is much bigger, EM smaller. So EM is under KM's umbrella. But I think maybe 10, 20 years later, it will switch.
Right.
Yeah, EM with better number of congregation and better finances would take care of the KM.
Right.
And we don't want to abandon our parent generation, right? Yeah. We need to work with them. Yeah.
So something that happened, again, this is probably like 10, 15 years ago, it's happening a little bit more, is that a lot of Korean American English-speaking people, rather than staying at the church with the KM, we're seeing them launch and become their own church.
Yes.
Not on the same campus. We do know that exists, where they share the same campus, but they are separate entities. But we're also seeing other churches where they would rather be on their own campus, own location. There's no KM, it's all English speaking.
Yes.
Do you think that's the answer? Or people might think like, that's the way to go. Let's not work with KM. We should just become our own churches and our own entities. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's an answer because I think...
And it's not bad, by the way.
I
don't want it to make it sound like it's bad.
Yeah, I think it's a particular form of an immigrant church, but the KM model will always exist because of the parent generation and then the second generation or the following generation. Because first generation will always speak Korean, and second generation will always speak English. So you have to have a KM model. For the EM models, I think same will go because eventually third and fourth generation, and there will always be a cultural and generational conflict, generational difference. So I think learning to be mission-mindedness in whatever context that you are working with is a valuable thing.
Yeah, because I think that is part of our generation too, because we're now in third generation, and so it does make sense. Like now, there's like first, second, third Korean American generations now.
Yes.
And so becoming their own church, I think is a possibility, or like is part of the answer.
Yes.
But what about people watching right now and they're thinking, this is the worst idea ever. Like, what are you guys thinking? Why would you want to do English-speaking track? There's no way that the KM 목사님 and any English-speaking pastor is going to come to the same seminary. This is a lost cause because we've been talking about the same KM-EM problems for like 20 years. A lot of people are watching and they have past pain from their old churches. I know I have a lot of past pain from my experience in working with KM. And so there's a lot of pessimism. A lot of people think this is going to fail. They don't even want to deal with this. They would rather just start their own church and do that. What would you say to them?
First of all, for those pastors who had really difficult time with KM relationship and has left the KM context, I think you need to come and look at what's going on, and maybe if you start this program, maybe come and take some classes, because you need this concept one way or another. And also, if there's a lot of hurt in you, you need to come and know what happened, right? Why am I feeling this way? And if you don't have an answer, then it will bother you for the rest of your life, right? So I think in our classes, in our seminars, and in our curriculum, we'll try to answer those questions. What happened in the past that was kind of wrong, and what can we do to correct it? And if you have that feeling, oh, this will never work, it will work. We have to figure it out. And this method was never tried before. And I truly think this is the best way to resolve it. And if you do not want to go back to the nightmare, so-called, but as a pastor, as a mission-mindedness pastor, you need to resolve that issue. Because if you don't, it will affect your ministry. You will come across different cultures. You'll come across Korean immigrant church in your ministry, and your reaction and your attitude will be tainted by your experience. So I would encourage those pastors to come, maybe audit the class, and come and sit down and talk to us, and maybe take a course or two, and then see what was wrong. Yeah.
One of the things that we talked about is anyone who comes here, especially if it's the CAM and EM guy together, but anyone who comes there, they're going to have to take this required course, which is, I think I'm teaching with Tom Byung-ju Moksa님, right? That's what we're talking about. But it's going to be an EM and a KM guy together, and the KM and EM from the same church have to take the class together.
Yes.
We're talking about how this is required.
Yes.
Sure, it's gonna, we have to figure out how to actually do that, scheduling, things like that. But the goal of that class is to begin fostering that relationship and those dynamics.
Yes.
And like you said, the thing that I'm fascinated by is that, this has never been done before.
Yeah.
And that's what I really want to see. I really think it's going to work, but I want to also see, is it going to work? Because we've never done this before.
Yeah.
And this course that we're talking about is one of those pieces of where this is how we're going to try to build that peace in that relationship. One thing that you said too, I think is interesting and true, is a lot of the EM people that have past pain, the nightmares, they never got to find healing with that.
Yeah.
Because our culture is honor shame culture. We're taught to suppress everything. Don't bring it up. That shows more strength and leadership and things like that. And they just take that baggage with them to the next church.
Yeah.
Even if it's American church, you take that past pain with you.
Yeah.
And so I think what you said is a great idea. Come here and take some of those courses to help you begin that journey of healing.
Yeah.
Because I have friends that have so much pain, and that's another problem. No one taught us how to deal with that. It was always just chamo, just to suppress it.
Yeah.
And so that's all we know how to do, and it's just festering inside. And I think that's a great idea. Take some courses here, and hopefully you might begin a journey of finding resolution, peace, maybe even reconciliation with your pastor. That would be great.
And the KMEM, the course that you're talking about, KMEM, Ministry in KMEM Context class, is a graduate level class. So if you are already a pastor, you finish your M.Div, you come and audit the class. And I think main thing is to come and engage, because we think we have a solution, but we want to learn from the students also. We want to learn from the pastors also, what they experience. So although it will be a class that will be taught, but I think main part of the class will be discussion, sharing, and just trying to understand each other, because there will be EM pastors and KM pastors together in the class, and trying to talk, that's where you're coming from. Oh, that's why you did that. Oh, that's how you felt. And those kind of processes is really important. And when you do that, you begin to understand them and value where they're coming from, and you get a different perspective of the ministry. And this will help you. Definitely, it will not hurt you. It will help you 100%. Whatever ministry that you do in the future.
One of the experiences that I had at Good Stewards Church, this was with Timothy Moksa님, is we went out to lunch for a Friday, and we all went to the church van,
Yeah.
And I remember Timothy Moksa님, head pastor, senior pastor, get into the van, and he sits in the back of the van.
Wow, yeah.
And again, this is such a small example with huge kind of like blown away. There's huge content here. I just thought I saw that and I was like, wow, I've never seen that before. That's so weird. He's sitting in the back.
Yeah.
Like, he should sit in the front, right? But he chooses to sit in the back.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of something that is essential in all of life, of course, but essential here is it's humility.
Yes.
Humility is essential, not just for the KM, for the EM too.
Yeah.
I remember when GNC, when they left the campus, remember you guys went to the school, and this is kind of the beginning of just separate entity where now it's not even on the same location anymore. And I remember talking to Song Byung-jun 목사님. I don't quite remember if it was during that transition and when that happened. I remember talking to him and him sharing like kind of his like sadness because he wanted that transition to kind of go better, like he wished it kind of went better. But just hearing him admit that he was sad, I was blown away. I was like, wow. Because again, Cam 목사님 doesn't show vulnerability.
Yes.
They're strong. They have to be a sergeant, they're the general. They have to not show weakness. And then for him to show that to me, so blown away.
And your focus is kind of EM, but also KM will also benefit. KM pastors, it goes both ways. The EM pastors has to understand KM pastors,
right?
But KM pastors has to understand EM pastors,
right?
But they cannot if there's no one to understand, right? And then when they come together at a church, there is no avenue or no relationship prior, and they don't know how to interact. So when these two group of pastor to be EM and KM come together, KM pastors, future pastors will also understand where the EM pastors are coming from. They understand their culture, and then they would value it. So a lot of times we blame it. Oh, this is the KM pastors' fault. Yeah, there is. And then KM pastors would, say to, oh, there's EM pastor's fault. Yeah, but they're both the fault. But understanding where they're coming from, and if it's for KM, if they could understand more and more about EM's value and culture, it will help EM. So I think it goes both ways.
When I was in KM model, and this is probably very common for a lot of us, like we used to like, KM, we don't like KM, and they're always like so annoying and frustrating, they don't understand us, right? And we used to like hate KM, right? Like, like working with them and they don't get it. And it wasn't until I left GSC and I was church planting, it wasn't until while I was church planting that I got that moment of humility. And I started to think about, like there's a lot about the KM actually that they do way better than EM.
Oh, yeah.
I started to think about that more deeply when I was out of that. And one thing I regret this so much, is when I was at GSC, one thing I regret is not asking Song Byung-jun 목사님 to mentor me. I regret that. I wish I met with him every week and just like had an opportunity to ask him questions and let him mentor me. Because again, for someone like me, we, Pastor Ben Shin has been a mentor of mine for like almost 20 years now, but these are the people that we all want, which is great. We want to go to the Pastor Bens and they're all great, I love, but I regret not asking him to also mentor me. And I wish I took advantage of that time. I could have learned so much from him, and I didn't realize that until after I left. It's like too late now, I left. What do you think are some things that EM, Korean American English speaking pastors can learn from KM pastors?
Their commitment, their diligence, their faithfulness, their sacrifice, definitely. And but again, all those comes from their culture, their background. So like you said, you wish you were if you were able to mentor by a Korean senior pastor. But when we come to this seminary together, I think you would have a chance to mentor each other. KM pastor and EM pastor would maybe, I don't know. We have to kind of figure this out as we start our program. But you kind of mentor each other if you to learn the language, to learn the culture together, and then through that, you'll also learn what they value. So I remember when I was a junior high pastor, Pastor Timothy Song was asking, I think not only me, other EM pastors, hey, you guys have to preach at a early morning prayer in Korean. And I was kind of shocked because I never preached in Korean before.
You have a hard time doing that, even
no,
though
before
you're
that,
Korean?
Yeah, preaching and talking is
different.
Totally
right,
different, man.
The words, the Christian
words.
I
was never trained to preach in Korean, and I was kind of shocked because I never done this before. So I was junior high pastor, and then so I was preaching in junior high ministry every Sunday. But that early morning prayer comes once a month, right? But I would find myself spending more time preparing that sermon than my junior high sermon. And I would first write everything, and I would just read it. I would ask my wife to correct any grammar, and read it, and then I was doing that for several months, and then one of the like elders came up to me and said, "Hey, Pastor Rubin, I think it's time that you stop reading, man." And then that comes on. Okay, whatever happens, I'll just say it, right? So I say it, and then they say, "Oh, that was pretty good." And then that is the reason that I could preach in Korean right now. If that didn't happen, I wouldn't have able to preach Korea. That all came from my mentorship with Pastor Timothy Song, right? And that obstacle, that hurdle that once you overcome, it will benefit you and able to learn the Korean culture better. And that's the skill that I value to this day. And that's a whole different skill set to be able to do a ministry in different culture and different language. So I think that's really, really valuable if you get a mentor from a different culture. Yeah.
What do you think the KM can learn from EM? I remember this was a number of years ago. There was a panel of 6 KM 목사님s and 3 EM 목사님s. Benchen was there. I think Jimmy Han was there too, but I don't quite remember. But Steve Choi was there too, Crossway pastor.
Okay.
And Ka 목사님 was there, No 목사님 was there.
Okay.
It was actually hosted at Sarang.
Okay.
And then I don't know if you know Jim Bob.
I met him.
He was there too.
Okay.
And one of the questions was what I just said, like, how do you, the KM 목사님, how do you view EM? And I remember Ka 목사님 said this, I'll never forget. He said, the way I look at EM is that they can do things that the KM cannot do. And he said, the EM can reach people that we can't reach. We can only reach Korean-speaking people because we're Korean-speaking congregation. And they were based in LA. And he said, but in LA, there's so many other people that need to come to church, know Jesus. And he said, the EM can do that. So he viewed the EM actually as missionaries. Because they're the ones that can get so many more ethnicities. And he said, that's why, like, I need the EM. That's why I have to work well with them, because they can reach more people and do things we cannot do. And this is why I respect them, or I value them. I'll never forget that, what he said. What do you think are things that the KM can learn from EM?
Yeah, just like Kang 목사님 says, Pastor Kang says, those things are really, really what KM cannot do, and EM could do, like reaching out different generations, different cultures, and different generations, and even the church that I serve, the EM was able to reach out to Hispanic community in different communities, and our EM is kind of multicultural. So with the help of KM in a different way, EM could do a lot of things, and I think KM could also learn about grace, love, and understanding, and different aspects of what EM does better. How to do education ministry, and a lot of times KM would kind of intervene and, hey, do this. But I think EM could do, if you leave them alone, I think they could do a lot of good job in a better or more diverse way. So I think EM could look a lot different, more multi-ethnic, if KM kind of understands EM's role and trust them.
Right. That's what I was thinking this whole time. Trust.
Trust them, and just give them an opportunity to do their ministry. And if that could happen, the KM, you became EM, but KM, EM in a more multi-ethnic, multicultural, and more powerful way, I think.
Yeah. When you were describing that, that's what I was thinking this whole time. I was like, trust. Can the KM trust the EM more? Not look at the EM as like their children or beneath them, which makes me think, I think Pastor Jimmy said this when we were meeting in our team, that one important thing that he felt when he was working with Timothy Song and even 성병주 목사님 was he felt respected and he felt known. Like there was a way that they talked to him in a way where he felt like, I am a pastor with them, not like beneath them or anything like that. Again, even me, I do think about this a lot, but maybe a lot of the viewers watching are thinking this question: can the KM ever respect EM, and can the AM ever respect KM? Because that's a hard one. How would we build that dynamic of respect?
Again, I think it comes to understanding, because trust also has to have a basis on understanding. If I know you, I could trust you, right? It's kind of hard to trust someone that you don't know, right? So if, again, in a PTSA school context, if we start this program, KM and pastors come together and know each other, to understand each other throughout this process, it will be a lot easier to trust them and understand them, and the leadership style that the KM kind of boast is kind of vertical, right? That will change. I believe that will change if they kind of trust and understand the different culture. And you have to change. If you don't change, you cannot survive. And they have to understand that and they know them. And then one of the ways that to let them know is in this kind of context, to talk and to understand. And even in the missionary context, I talk about missions a lot. If you go to different countries like Philippines, Indonesia, Africa, whatever, you have to adjust to their style, their leadership style. If you commit to your own style, it will never happen. They will never trust you. They will never come and want to work with you. And if you're able to adjust and work with in that context, why not with your own same people, right? Same root. So I think that's doable, but you just have to change your mindset and understand where they're coming from.
What you just described is, I think, one of the goals and opportunities here, because most of the KMEM churches, they don't have a space or a safe environment or even a place to come together and build that trust and that respect. You can't really do that in staff meetings, because staff meetings, you're just talking about ministries, mostly business, things like that. But unless, which is very rare, you're very intentional during staff meetings, is not going to happen. And again, most KMEM churches, they don't go out to lunch together like we used to do on Fridays. So one of the things I get really excited about here is a place, an opportunity for you to build that relationship, that trust, that respect, and to find that common ground and to build those dynamics. And I think our program is going to try to create that environment, that space. I even talked to you about even the professors, the English-speaking and Korean-speaking professors. We have to model that for our students. We can't always be separated.
I know.
We have to show them that we're interacting. And that's really funny too, because when I first came here, I was really nervous. My Korean, I was so nervous. I was like, oh my goodness, like I don't speak Korean. And then I came and they were so nice, so respectful. There was the other John Shin, he's also John Shin that I saw in India. So, oh my gosh, I saw you in 2009. That's such a funny story, side story. But we have to model that. And I'm really excited about this program because I think that's what we're going to try to do here. We're going to try to launch this program in the fall of 2023. There's a lot of work to be done. And I'm really looking forward to building that environment, that space, and of course, trying our best to make that bridge, because in most KMEM churches, they don't have it. They don't have an opportunity to do that. It's not there. But one of the differences between our M.Div program and the American system M.Div program is here, we're going to inject into our academics a cultural lens, a cultural understanding. Not we're going to reinterpret the Bible with a cultural lens. You know, all of our hermeneutics is going to be solid, things like that, but in our application.
Yes.
In our theology and how we apply our church teaching and application, we're going to inject it with culture. Because I remember at Talbot, there would be some classes that I was taking, and I was always thinking, this is never going to work. This is never going to work.
Same thing. A lot of. Is it going to work in my context?
Yeah.
In my KMN context, in my Korean immigrant church context. Yeah. So that was always a struggle, right?
Yeah.
But it won't be a struggle in this program.
We're going to try our best to inject cultural application to help them apply this better in their church ministry context. And you and I, we're dreaming big. In the beginning, I think, of course, we're going to focus on KMEM, but we really would love to turn this into cross cultures, all cultures. Not just Korean culture, but anyone from any culture can come to this program.
Yeah. You know what Jesus says, Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and ends of the earth. So we're going to start in a KMA context, but we're going to build up. This will be motto, and we're going to build up. And So we have a big picture, big vision, and I think we'll work starting 2023 fall semester.
Is the KM, the Korean-speaking faculty here, are they excited? Are they
nervous? They're excited. So when
they think like, all these English-speaking people are coming in here?
When I was really, really excited, and when I first began to invite the EM pastors and the advisory committee, and at the time I had a fear. Oh, what if because in a typical Korean church context, it was an issue of the leadership, right? KM pastor, EM pastors, they have to be harmonious in order for the congregation to be harmonious, right? If the leadership has issues, the congregation will have issue, right? And this school was Korean school, and this school will be like a KMEM model school. So I was talking to our faculty, our staff, hey, this has to work. We have to learn the EM faculty, learn the EM staff when they come in. We have to be harmonious. We have to show the example. We cannot separate,
Yeah. We can't have separate lounges and things like that.
Yeah. So and only if you could do that, students will be able to follow and do the same thing. So our goal is to create an environment where both cultures will come and have fun.
Yeah.
And have fun studying, have fun fellowshipping, and have fun learning, have fun life together, and that would naturally extend to the ministry when they go outside and graduate and go outside and do the ministry.
Well, we got a lot of work to do.
Yes.
I think we're both excited about it.
Yes.
We're trying to get the right people here for the professors and the staff and things like that. And we got about a year, a little less than a year now.
Yeah.
And I hope we launch well.
Yeah, I think we'll do fine.
Hey, thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoy what you're seeing and you want more notifications about future podcasts, we're going to be talking a lot about culture and ministry. And in the beginning, a lot of KM versus EM type of things. Subscribe. Please hit that like button. It really helps our channel so that more people can see this content.